Hi, good afternoon. I'm getting the raise coming in my way now. So I'm Gary Campbell with the Aspire program. I've been with the program for the past 7 years and in leadership role, trying to fill the shoes left behind from Lori as she transitioned to C3 since November. Just going to tell you a little bit about our program, the tools that we've developed over time. Definitely take what you will. We're going to share some of our best practices that we've found, so feel free to steal ideas if you'd like to. The very last slide will have our contact information as well. So if you have something that you've developed that you think, oh, these guys could use that, definitely reach out to us and let us know about those because we want to steal your good ideas too. So let's get started here. So Aspire, hopefully most of you are familiar with the program. Lori gave us a little glimpse of it this morning as well. But it is a volunteer-based mentoring program, so it's not based on staff hired in the buildings. We do rely on staff to coordinate the programs, but the mentoring is facilitated by trained volunteers. Those trained volunteers are recruited by the coordinator at the sites, most of which are parents, retirees, and current college students. So we've got a good variety of volunteers coming in to work with our students at the middle school and high school levels primarily. And Kristen will go into our pilot college program once I'm done talking about our traditional program here. It is open to all students from all backgrounds, whatever their SES is, whether or not they're a first-generation student or not. We do serve a wide variety of students, and I'll go into some of our demographics in just a little bit. And we're really proud to be an all-comers program to serve students no matter what their GPA is, what their goals are for the future, really trying to meet students both where they are in the river, as they were talking about before, and then trying to help them find their best options going forward in the future. We started in 1998 with just 4 pilot sites. As Lori mentioned, we had received a grant through OCF to help build the program from scratch. It's based on one of the programs that's currently still an Aspire program, is the North Bend High School Naggers program, which is based on a parent swap program where parents come in as volunteers and they swap each other's students. So you may have your kid with another volunteer and that you're working with other students or other parents' students. And we really saw the need for that sort of support model because there is a lack of support and funding for the amount of counselors that would be needed at the high schools. And so Aspire was developed in 1998 to meet that need. Over time, we've developed both the middle school and the college programs as well, and currently in around 150 sites statewide. At its basic level, these are the items that our volunteer mentors really focus on in supporting students. So looking at exploration, so that could be exploring the various college and career options for students, looking at the technical schools, the certification programs that they could be going to right after high school, going to four-year university, master's degree programs, their long-term career goals, as well as options for students who don't necessarily see training or education as a goal for themselves, but want to go directly into the work field. So helping them build their resumes, doing mock interviews, getting them skilled up in order to make that jump after high school, but then also informing them about the other options for them in case they do want to make the decision to go to education somewhere down the line in the future. Then helping students, once they've explored those different options, helping them actually select one that's a good fit for them at the time, whether that's a short-term certification program or long-term bachelor's degree program, eventually graduate degree program. So helping them look at the different options and weigh how much it's going to cost, the time frame for completing that certification and training program, and then making the decision, okay, I'm going to choose this route. So I need some support in actually applying for that choice. And so we help them with the application process, making sure that they're meeting all the minimum requirements to get into their program of choice, and then helping them meet the deadlines, get their applications completed, making sure that they're quality applications. That way, especially if they're looking at competitive programs, that they have quality essays, that they're not missing pieces of their application, and they'll be able to be successful in their application process. And finally, looking at the pay. So we know most programs of study is going to cost students money, and so helping them relieve some of that burden by exploring scholarship opportunities as well as grant opportunities, both from within our office at OSAC, but also local scholarships, nationwide scholarships, and grant opportunities, making sure that they're completing their FAFSAs and supporting them and their parents and knowing about the FAFSAs and the importance of them completing that. So the volunteers come in and they work with their students on site at our locations. So we are a site-based program. Those volunteers have been trained either by us as central staff from OSAC. We also have now video trainings for our volunteers. Those are based online. And then also their coordinators provide either additional trainings or the complete trainings in person with them. So these volunteers come in and are able to be trained and be knowledgeable to how to work with students, as well as getting to know some of the content or resources to help them navigate that work that they're doing with them. As a program, in addition to the support that we provide for our site coordinators and the volunteers, we also offer services to come to the schools, come to the sites where we're located, and provide additional resources and information for parents and families as well as the students. So we go in and do workshops at our sites for the parents, families. We also do that during the school day or during the program day and can be available for those sites. So we're providing that additional support for our programs and for our families, trying to get the whole family knowledgeable about the information. So that way it's not the student having to make decisions and bring the information directly to the parents, but we can support the students by getting the families on board with that information as well. Okay. We do provide our sites their own volunteer recruitment tools. So the knowledge for them, we have some coordinators coming in that are counselors and then also doing volunteer recruitment on top of their counseling duty, or maybe another staff member at the school, so a front office secretary may be also an Aspire coordinator, or a teacher may also be an Aspire coordinator. So they may not have the time or knowledge to know how to reach out into their communities to get volunteers in the door and working with the program. And so we provide them with some training materials to be able to learn how to go out into their communities and do that volunteer recruitment. Then we're also working on creating more statewide volunteer recruitment tools for all of our sites as well. So that way they're not responsible for all the recruitment themselves. Their communities will be getting some recruitment information from us centrally. And that includes, we have an online video right now. We're working with some nonprofits that work with retirees and college students to be able to have them talk about the Aspire story and the opportunities for their members to volunteer with Aspire, and then connecting them with their local sites. So we're trying to do it sort of both at the local level as well as the statewide level, helping support them with volunteer recruitment. So this is last year. You can see the Google map up there with our locations throughout the site or throughout the state. 157 middle school, high school, community-based organizations and college sites. So the CBOs we haven't mentioned yet, but we do have a few CBOs in both the Portland area as well as down in Southern Oregon. And that's community-based organizations who are already working with youth. They're adding on the Aspire piece and helping mentor students around the college and career exploration and those pieces, in addition to the services that they were providing in the first place. One really good fit for that, down in Jackson County, we have a CASA, court-appointed special advocate, right, Lori? Right. A CASA program who is already working with youth and supporting them as they're trying to navigate the judicial system and working out for themselves all those issues within our system. They're adding on the Aspire program to be an additional resource for their students there. This past year, we had over 1,500 volunteer mentors throughout the state, donating over 54,000 hours of service, and that translates to over $1 million volunteer time and resources. And so we're adding a lot of value to the communities in which we're serving. So you can see we're in rural sites as well as urban sites throughout the state. And so by getting in those volunteers coming into the school, that's adding value to the school there that they wouldn't have otherwise. So really proud of some of our achievements for our students. Served over 10,000 students last year throughout the state. 35% identified themselves as students of color, which doesn't seem all that great, but we are a very white state. And this is slightly above average of the student body from last year's graduating class. So we feel like we are doing a good job of meeting the needs of students throughout the state from various backgrounds. You can also see around 54% identified that at least one parent did not attend college, so that's first-generation students. So we're meeting those needs for students as well, which we're proud of. And then looking at how students reported out that 67% applied for at least one scholarship. So that's that paying for college, getting that piece met. 84% applied for financial aid, which we're really excited about. And then 92% of our high school seniors said that they were planning to attend some sort of training program within 1 year of graduating high school. So we see that as good metrics of our success with students. So getting into more of the programmatic elements that you guys may be interested, if you don't already include these into your program, we do provide tools and resources for volunteers and coordinators. So I talked about the online trainings as well, or previously. We used to do a lot of webinars, getting volunteers scheduled to do webinars with us. So we had set out times that we're going to do these webinars, and that was really useful for volunteers because we'd do some in the evening, some in the morning, some in the afternoons. So it was able to meet the needs of their schedule, but it was very static that we'd have these set. And we got feedback from our volunteers, from our coordinators, about having even more flexibility in our online trainings. And so we listened to that, and now we've produced our online training modules where volunteers can go online and do our trainings in the middle of the night if they want to, whatever is most convenient for them. We also provide the resources online. So we've got a toolkit, an Aspire toolkit, which if you guys want to check it out, it's aspireoregon.org is a website, and you can go and check out the toolkit. There's resources there for both our coordinators and our volunteers working with students. Those are the essential parts of our program that volunteers and coordinators definitely should be using. And if sites do not have their own resources for career exploration, college exploration like CIS, Naviance, they're welcome to use our site as that filler in order to meet those needs in working with students. We also provide in-person training. So every year in the fall, we do our fall conference where we bring in various folks from college access, career access, to come and talk to our volunteers, talk to our coordinators about best practices, about updates to programs. So that way they're more knowledgeable when they're working with students and volunteers. This coming year, if you want to put it on your calendar, November 3rd at Lane Community College is our upcoming fall conference. You all are welcome to attend. Registration will be open soon on our website. And then we also provide regional trainings. This is one of my favorite parts of the year, are these regional trainings, where we go and collect sites from throughout the state and get them together geographically. So we'll go out to Pendleton and get some of our Eastern Oregon sites together, go over to Bend, get some of our Central Oregon sites together, go down to Southern Oregon, get our Ashland, Medford, Klamath Falls, Grants Pass sites together, Eugene for the South Valley, Portland area, we do a few of them because there are a bunch of them. So getting them together so that way they're able to meet each other, because coordinators day to day are really working with volunteers, working with students. They don't have much time to go and visit other sites. So they're able to work and meet with each other, share out best practices. So anybody in education knows that When you're working with students, if there's a tool that you're looking for and you can't find that anybody's created, most people will go and create one or steal one from somebody else and start using it for them. And so we're able to share out with each other those best practices that they've put together or stolen from other people. So they're able to share that with each other, as well as sharing out what's not working or what issues that they're having. And so they're able to learn from each other in that way in those regional trainings. So I love that day because I learn a lot, and the coordinators all tell us that they learn a lot during those trainings as well. Then we also provide some funding. Now, I'm going to say this can be great and it can be very thin some years. So it's based on either state funding and or grant funding that we're able to get into the program that we're able to pass on to the sites to help offset some of the costs for providing that coordinator, that staff person on site. They're never guaranteed, and they're never enough, I'll tell you that. So we definitely don't depend on those funds, but it's a great thing when we can provide those to our sites. For students and families, as I mentioned before, we do provide those presentations in person, so OSAC staff will go to Aspire sites to do those presentations and workshops. We also provide those statically as PowerPoints for our coordinators to do if they prefer to do it that way. But then we also have published resources that we provide for our families and students. That way they can take the information home, absorb it, get to know it a little bit better as they're working with their students. Okay. We do think informed practices make our program better. And so every year we do have student intake surveys when students are first coming into the program, as well as exit surveys when they're leaving the program. At the middle school level, we do that every year with each of the students. And then for the high school students, we do it at the beginning of their entry into the program, and then as they're graduating out of the program. And the feedback that we get from those informs us on what we need to do better for our students, but we also provide that feedback directly to our coordinators. So coordinators know at their site what's working for students and what they can improve upon. Then we also have volunteer surveys. So every year volunteers complete their surveys. And as Lori mentioned, one thing that we hear every year in the volunteer surveys is the vast majority of our volunteers are planning to volunteer again the next year. So this past spring, volunteers, about 82% of them said that they were going to be returning for the next year. Now hopefully most of them actually follow through on that, but most of them really enjoy their experience and feel really supported in the program. And so we love to get that feedback and then also find ways that we can improve too. Our coordinator surveys, each of our coordinators complete those surveys, and that informs us about tools for them, what they're needing, which also inform our practices. And then progress reports, that is the information we get from our coordinators about students. So how many students were in the program, how many students were getting mentored, how many volunteers they were able to get on board, the stats that I showed you before about the number of volunteers, volunteer hours, that's all collected through the progress reports. So we can see how healthy a program is. Program that seems to be struggling a bit, we know that we need to allocate more resources and time to support that program to help that become a stronger program. And then programs that are doing really well without much support, we just continue to check in with them, making sure that they have what they need, and we don't have to commit as much time to them. So we're able to adjust to the site's needs in that way. We also have had 4 or 5 now in the past few years. Outside evaluators come in to evaluate the program, see how well it's working for students, ways for us to improve the program, and that's really helped to have that outside perspective to come in to inform our practices as well. And all of those have found that we're doing a good job of supporting students as they're doing that exploratory work with volunteers. So for us, it's really important as a statewide program to ensure that sites that are coming on board really know what they're getting into and working with us and have similar expectations of themselves as we do for them. And that ensures our fidelity as a program and ensures that we're going to have a strong program going forward. So if you're working regionally with schools or regionally with program partners Or if you're working on campus and you have a few departments that you're working with, I really encourage you to do this sort of the pre-work and having those conversations with them before you're jumping on board with them, so that way you know that everybody's on the same page. So we have an application that all our sites complete. Once they've done that application, our staff score that application, and we may have questions that we need clarification with the site, so that way we have, again, are on the same page with them. Once we've gotten all that paperwork done, then our staff go out and actually do an initial site visit with them. So having the conversation with administrators, having the conversation with the coordinator that will be running the program, just to, again, make sure that they know what they're getting into, what the expectations are, and that they think it's a good fit for them to come on board as an Aspire site. Then we execute an agreement which outlines all those expectations. Our coordinators and volunteers are also provided position descriptions, and that outlines the duties for the coordinators, outlines the duties for your volunteers. Again, having that clarity with people that you're going to be forming a relationship with and expectations for them is really important in order for them to follow through on their end and for them to know how you're going to follow through on your end. Once we have the coordinator chosen there, we go and do on-site training with them and provide ongoing support for them and their volunteers. Okay. I'm going to hand it over to Kristen Vreeland. She's going to talk about our Summer Bridge program and our college pilot program. Thank you, Kristen.
Thank you very much, Gary. I appreciate you taking on the first half of the presentation. And thank you all in the room. I just want to remind you that you can still tweet. This gives you full permission to not pay attention and play on your phone. Not really, but just remember that you can still tweet, and here's the hashtag if you need that reminder. So I get to talk about the Summer Bridge program, and I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I've been at OSAC for about 7 years, but I've done many different things, and I've gotten to know our organization very well, and so now I get to develop programs. So our Aspire Summer Bridge, this is actually the 3rd year of the Summer Bridge, and so it's an extension of our Aspire program. It's really a summer program that was created to address summer melt. Students need engagement during the summer. Some students need more engagement than others, and we just really wanted to make a program that really reached our students in the way that they can receive the information and then use it in order to continue on through the summer into that first year of college. This is a program that's been around, like I said, for 3 years, and we've doubled participation every year. So we have over 70 students participating this year. The first year we only had about 17. Part of the reason that it was smaller the first year was that we were only providing it to Aspire students going on to the 3 Aspire pilot colleges. But now, through the first couple years of providing information to those students, we're able to provide information to students going to any college. And so even though it's a little more general and less specific, we can still provide them that general encouragement and the resources they need in order to make sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed before their freshman year. So the first way we get students to participate in the program is we have a student interest form. This form is where we collect the student contact information. On this form, the students get to select whether or not they receive emails or text messages. This is a big thing for us. It's one of the first years we've used texting in our program. Although some of our sites have used it at a school level, now we're adopting it as a program and trying to implement that into our development. We used to use a paper student interest form, and now we use a Google form to collect this information, so we're really becoming more modern and making it easy to collect and transfer information. So the emails happen every 2 weeks during the summer, and the text messages happen twice a week. This is just due to the nature of text messages being 140 characters, and the emails being able to be more robust in their information. So as they receive these emails, the students have They include links that they can click on. And one of the things that we found that I'll talk a little bit more in depth in a few slides is that we can actually analyze the statistics of who's opening the emails and who's using the links within them. And then during the end of the summer bridge, what we do is we transfer the contact information from the students to the Aspire coordinators at the colleges. And then the colleges, we also give the students the information of the coordinator at the college. So this really allows us to help them continue from their high school year in the Aspire program through the summer and into that Aspire college program. The Summer Bridge topics include the basics, what you would expect in a Summer Bridge program. We talk about financial aid, we talk about ordering textbooks, but we also talk about some of the softer skills, what we call college knowledge. And in the college knowledge, we talk about, you might want to print out a map of your campus, make sure that you can get back and forth to classes in time. We talk about what are you going to eat during the day? Are you going to bring your lunch? And then once we talk about food, we have to talk about budget. So do you have the budget to be able to eat on campus, or do you need to pack your lunch? Are you going to be eating ramen at the end of the term if you don't manage your money well? And what we do is we sprinkle in the resources that are already created. We don't want to recreate the wheel, just like Gary said. And so we actually partner with Salt Money. How many of you in the room know who Salt Money is and what they do? Awesome. So SALT doesn't stand for anything, just SALT, because it used to be currency. But Salt Money, we have a statewide partnership with them. And so I know a lot of colleges have SALT at their colleges, but some colleges don't. And so we offer SALT Money to our Aspire students. Any student in Oregon can sign up in relationship with the Office of Student Access and Completion, and then they can get access to the resources offered. And a lot of it's just basic budgeting skills and workshops. What I love about Salt Money is that they have different mediums in which the students can learn. They have everything from comics about money to in-depth worksheets and videos that students can use in order to continue their education. And we sprinkle those into our Summer Bridge texts and emails. We've used a few different platforms throughout the years at OSAC. The two that we're using for the Aspire Summer Bridge are Remind and MailChimp. And no, that's not a typo. Remind is with a lowercase r. At remind.com and MailChimp, they have free versions. And since we don't have a lot of money to spend and resources are scarce, we always use some free programs. They do have optional add-ons, things like analytics and statistics that you can use, which are great if you have those resources. And I'll talk a little bit more about Remind and show you some screenshots of what it looks like. Signalvine is the texting platform that we used for the Oregon Promise mentoring this summer. It was a really great program. It has a lot of bells and whistles. It's very interactive, so that if a student answers in one way, it can automatically send them a text message that gives them the information that they need according to their answer. It does cost. There is a significant cost to that, which you have to remember, but if you can afford it, it's a really great product. And another product that is a paid product that we've had some demonstrations of is Selly. So this is what Remind looks like. Something to keep in mind as a mentoring program is Remind is really built for around a school ideal. So within Remind, there's a district, there's schools, and there's classes. And so we've kind of just gone with it and been flexible. So our school district is the Higher Education Coordinating Commission. Our school is the Aspire Summer Bridge. And then our classes are the different colleges in which the students are going to go to. We have one class that kind of incorporates all those students not going to an Aspire college. As you can see here on my slide, you can schedule all of your messages ahead of time, which is really, really good. So we've set up more than 20 text messages to go out in the next few months, and so they just keep going out twice every week. And whenever a student replies, we can see that they've replied, and we can reply directly to the student without everybody seeing it. It's a platform in which you can log into and mentor students, and you can also assign, we can assign our coordinators at the other community colleges to mentor their own students if they wish to do so. Here is an example of MailChimp. What I wanted to really highlight about MailChimp is that the Aspire Summer Bridge program, it's really campaign-based. So each email you send out has to be its own campaign. But what's really great is the statistics. So you can see how many subscribers are in each group. You have to set the students up in groups, and then you can see how many people are opening them and how many people are clicking on the links. So you can see that the Summer Bridge students, 2 out of the 3 open them and click the links. So that's really helpful for when you're trying to vet your program and the information. Sometimes it's because they don't need to click the link, but sometimes you want to make sure that they're doing certain things. MailChimp allows you to kind of co-brand it with your colleges. Here's an example of our Chemeketa and Blue Mountain Community College. I heard a woohoo. So community college, so that way they see it as something familiar. So the Aspire coordinator, not only is the Aspire name in there, but also the college logo's in there. And so they really see it as something connected to the college. It's something that was connected to their high school. They remain connected to Aspire throughout the summer, and then they're still connected to it their freshman year of college. Now I'm going to talk more about our Aspire pilot program. So 3 years ago, we started the Aspire College pilot, and we were able to successfully get a grant from the Oregon Community Foundation. And I wanted to talk a little bit about the evolution of our program and really kind of stress the fact that it's still a pilot. We've tried some things that worked well. We've tried things that didn't work well. And I'll talk to you a little bit about that, and I'm willing to share more about our experiences. A lot of our coordinators are willing to share more about their experience as an Aspire College coordinator. I know that we have one in the room from Tillamook Bay Community College, and it's really great that she could make it out. And around the state, our colleges have had different experiences because they've implemented our different models, and I'll talk a little more about that. And it's important to keep that in mind whenever you start a pilot program. You don't want to completely reinvent the wheel, but sometimes you have to try new things because that's why it's a pilot. So right now, our 4 participating colleges are Blue Mountain Community College, Chemeketa Community College, Tillamook Bay Community College, and the University of Oregon. The University of Oregon won't be continuing their program next year, but we anticipate all 3 of the community colleges to continue. We also had Columbia Gorge Community College as a pilot site during one of the years of the program. We are looking to recruit 2 more community colleges for next year. So if you are interested, you can visit our website, talk to our administrator, and we're happy to talk a little bit more about what it would look like to become an Aspire College. So we took some models from our high school program to implement in our colleges, but we've learned a lot about how colleges and high schools are very different. They're very different places, and from college to college, it looks very different. The culture is different, the campuses are different, the services offered can be very different at each college. And so what we wanted to do is kind of have a menu of different models that the colleges could pick from. And so during the site visit, that initial support at the beginning of the year, we meet with coordinators and we talk about the different models that might fit best within their already existing college culture and system. And so, of course, the one-on-one mentoring is something that's tried and true. It's from our Aspire High School program, and it's been very successful. And most of our programs did implement the one-on-one Aspire mentoring. This means that a mentor and mentee consistently meet together throughout the year. We have an Aspire drop-in model. This means that there's a center somewhere at the college where students can go and they can get help from an Aspire volunteer. I'll talk a little bit about who our Aspire volunteers are, and this might make a little more sense with the drop-in model a little bit later. The group mentoring model, this one's really big, especially as Aspire College students get more confident navigating the Aspire system, and they might want to meet one-on-one less and less with their one-on-one mentors. And so when you go to the group mentoring and event model, it really helps kind of keep them engaged with the program, keep them asking the questions and getting the information that they need. E-mentoring is an option. We haven't talked a lot about our e-mentoring program, but through our e-Aspire program, it's mentoring through email, which is all monitored and safe through Google. But we set that up through our state. But we allow for e-mentoring either using our e-Aspire resources, our text messages, or they can also utilize their own online platforms, because most colleges have a really awesome online platform like Moodle or Canvas, and so we definitely allow them to use that if it's something that they would like to do. The concierge model is kind of something that most colleges do naturally. It's a model where there's a place to receive information about the program or sign up for a mentor. This is a manned or unmanned information station, kind of like the one right outside the door, where they can go and say, hey, I'm interested in mentoring programs, or I really would like to get connected with somebody who can show me the resources around the college, and they could then refer them to the Aspire program and hand them the piece of paper that they need to have in order to get connected. So who are our college volunteers? It's a little bit different trying to recruit volunteers at a college than for a high school. There's not as much parent involvement. These students have moved away from home, and so most of them, and so they're not always going to have mom or dad wanting to come and volunteer at their college. We see that there's a lot of community volunteers. There's always going to be some good resources around your college, in your community, to pull volunteers from. We found that a lot of retirees, especially retired educators, want to stay connected. They want to come back. The alumni from your college might be community volunteers that come back and serve your students. Student volunteers are probably the number one type of volunteers we see at the college program. They're already on campus, which is great. They're familiar with the student experience. So those second-year community college students can often speak to the first-year community college about that college experience and help them navigate all the resources, and then just talk about generally what helped them succeed, and more importantly, what they wish they would have known their first year of college, so that they can really fill in those first-year students in order to get them that information. Professionals, and when I say professionals, I don't just mean people with really high-level degrees. I mean people out there working in different career fields. There might be some professionals around here. I know that, fish and wildlife people, anybody who has a profession that's interesting, that they can provide job shadowing or internships, or even just come and talk to a group of students about what they do and why it's important. Those are the types of professionals that you want to see volunteering in your program. These might not be the kinds of volunteers that come back time after time after time all year round. They might be people that come in 1 to 3 times a year and help give those presentations and just generate some excitement around a major or career field for your students. But they're still volunteers. They're still there volunteering their time. They might not need all the training that we offer every single one of our one-on-one volunteers, but they're still there dedicating their time to the program and the students, so they're just as important as those one-on-one volunteers. Staff and teachers. This was really important to the Aspire College program because there was a focus on students pursuing healthcare careers due to the fact that it was a grant through the Oregon Community Foundation, and where the grant money came from, we wanted to engage students pursuing healthcare careers. And so what we did is we worked with our Aspire coordinators and specifically told them, hey, we need you to start working with your healthcare departments. And so they were able to get specific student populations that we wanted to target with our program. But then also, in general, there's a lot of college majors that require you to have volunteer experience and to kind of go out and be a mentor for a while to get credit for your classes. And so especially education programs, we had our coordinators reach out to any faculty or staff in those departments that ran those programs in which students needed to volunteer in order to receive their credit and complete their program. And they got a really good relationships started with them. And that's actually a pretty sustainable source of volunteers. So if you have a teacher who requires their students to volunteer in order to be successful in their program, and they see that their students actually went and volunteered, and they were able to earn their credits and be successful, they're going to send next year's students and the year after. And so that was a really great way to not only spread awareness about the program, but to kind of create a sustainable source of volunteers year after year. So I'm a state employee. I'm a very transparent person. I'm going to talk to you about some of the things we struggled with, some of our challenges, and how we address those, or how we're still continuing to address those, and just things to consider generally. So Aspire coordinator staffing is different than it was at a high school. Many of the times at first, during our first year, we had colleges that were really excited about the Aspire College program, but they wanted to create a new position at the college for it. And because, like Gary said, our funding isn't 100% of what it costs for a coordinator, that was hard to do. And so something that we decided is that after a couple failed recruitment attempts, we decided that we wanted to have a coordinator in place when the Aspire College agreement was put into place. So before they became a program, they had to identify either an existing staff member or have hired a new staff member to become that coordinator. And there's another challenge with that too, because a lot of the times, yeah, they did pick an existing staff member, but that staff member is doing 6 other things. And so we really had to work carefully with our coordinators to figure out where the overlap is and how that they can definitely work Aspire in. And I think that this is really going to just be a continuing challenge. We have turnover in coordinators every year in our program. We find that, people leave the high school and that there's a brand new coordinator, and we have to help them try to keep that established program alive, keep those relationships alive with both the volunteers as well as the staff and faculty at the college, and then also train them and help support their vision for the program, because it might be different than what the original coordinator had. And so I think coordinator staffing is always going to be a challenge for us, always to be something to consider, but it's not a challenge that we can't overcome. Something else we found in the Aspire College program is reduced student interest. And what I mean by this is students, their freshman year of college, they would come in and they would want to meet with their mentors frequently. They'd say, I need help with this. Okay, now I need help with that. Oh, wow, it's halfway through my first term and I have to register for my classes. Okay, I need to talk to somebody to make sure I'm doing the right thing. And, during the fall, they met with their mentors frequently. But then as winter came on, and then even the spring, they were less and less interested in meeting as frequently and one-on-one. And so what our program did is we acknowledged that, and we said, okay, well, if that's how it's going to be, then maybe we can transition the model from one-on-one to more group mentoring and events and activities. And so some of our sites would have Aspire Pizza Nights. Food always helps get students there. And so what they would do is they would, instead of meeting one-on-one as frequently as they did in the fall, they would kind of design their program to acknowledge that that's probably not going to happen all the way through the spring. And so they would set up events and check-ins and more group mentoring towards the end of the year. Even though we go in wanting the one-on-one model consistently throughout the year, maybe we found that we needed to be a little bit more flexible. So also, multiple student programs. How many of you guys only have one student support program at your college or organization? Yet not many of you guys. Most colleges and organizations have more than one student support program. There's TRIO, there's Gear Up, there's just different specific scholarship mentoring programs like the Pathways at Oregon University. Something that we tell our coordinators is we're not there to compete with these other programs. What we're there to do is really to support our students getting connected with these other programs if that's what they need. If the other programs are targeting a specific audience of students and it's going to be a really good fit for them, we want to connect them with that. It doesn't mean that they can't also have an Aspire mentor, but it can also mean that they kind of transition away from meeting with their Aspire mentor as much and get involved with the other program. We really don't want to compete for resources as programs. We want to kind of help fill the gaps in between the targeted programs, and that's what's really great about being all comers and having that existing relationship. They might continue on in Aspire because they were in Aspire in high school, but once they get to the college, there's all these other resources and student service programs they can also get involved in. So even just being the conduit to that, they're served by our program by being connected to the other resources at the program. Sustainability is the last one on my list to talk about. And this one's really interesting. It should almost be sustainability and endurance. Over the years, Lori touched on it. Our program has kind of had this ebb and flow. We started as just being grant funded. And that's not always sustainable because once you become an established program, grants aren't always going to fund your program. So it's really important that throughout your program, you do establish that goal and that you are evaluating your program for your proven outcomes. And our pilot projects and capacity building efforts like the Aspire Middle School program and the college program are currently or were funded through grants. And so grants really let us try new things and to really think outside the box, take our established program and then build on it. So if it weren't for grants, we'd still be serving high school students one-on-one. I'm not sure if we would have reached down and established such great middle school and college programs. It would be a high school program still. It wouldn't be the continuum of service that we've been able to get some grant funding and really establish those programs. So as far as sustainability goes, I wanted to leave you with this. So as a program, you have to be flexible, innovative, and collaborative. The experience that we've had as Aspire, the longevity and success and recognition that we have as a statewide mentoring program recognized by the state of Oregon, it's not just because we have general funds, because like Lori said, we started as a grant-funded program. It's because we had the leadership that's dedicated to the core values of our program that we never lost sight of. We never lost sight of the core values, the mentoring and what we wanted out of our program, but we were also flexible. We were willing to try new things. We're willing to admit not every new thing works, and that's part of developing a program and expanding your capacity. I wouldn't have a job if Aspire didn't try new things and develop new programs. I'm the program developer. I love what I do, and I think that it's really important, like they said, to find kind of the gaps and the inequities and target different student populations. But as Aspire, what we do is we try to not only look at our program, but look at other programs in the state, like what C3 is mapping out for us, and find out where those gaps are, so that as an all-comers program, we can be the net for the students falling through the cracks, not trying to duplicate the efforts of the programs that already exist. So I wanted to thank you for your time. We have 10 minutes left in our session. I'm going to go ahead and invite Gary back up and open it up for questions. Oh, wait, I have one more slide, sorry. So, okay, another thing is you're not going to be successful right away. So for all those of you starting up new mentoring programs this year, our first year numbers did not look as good as these. This is the third year of our program, and every year we served a little bit more and a little bit more, but our first 2 years were not about perfection. They really weren't. They were about improvement. Even this year, it's not about perfection. Our program is not perfect. As a pilot, it's not something polished and shiny that you can hand over and say, this is definitely going to work for anybody that tries it. It's just not. And so I really want to encourage you to let you know that even if your numbers aren't the goal that you set the first year, continue what works. Make sure you're using evaluation to not continue doing what doesn't work. And then right now, our college program this past year, with our 4 sites, we served 657 students. 462 of those were college students, and 195 of those were high school seniors. So we're still serving with our college program high school seniors, but we're bringing those high school seniors through the summer bridge and into the colleges, which is really nice. We have 101 Aspire College volunteers and 1,200 volunteer hours. This is a small drop in the bucket compared to our overall program numbers, but we're increasing these each year, and we're looking at why they're increasing, and we're changing things that don't work. So that's something to consider with your programs as well. Now we can open up to questions. Sorry about that.
Yeah, in the back. We've had, so she's wondering about whether or not a high school or middle school program has served the Oregon Connections Academy, which is an online learning environment. We do have an eAspire mentoring program, which we have a couple sites using that as their platform. And we've had some interactions with Orca, but they haven't come on board yet as a site. Yeah, but that's always a possibility. We're always accepting applications for new sites, so if you have a school or a site-based program where you think it could be a good fit for bringing on Aspire, on our website, which is up here, oregonstudentaid.gov/aspire, you can learn more about the program, as well as that's where the application is to become a site. You can also go to that Google map and actually see which sites are actively involved with Aspire currently. Thanks. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am.
That's sort of a two-part question. How many, you gave sort of the statistics on how many of the students, like apply for financial aid, or what percentage of the student body within like a school on average is even participating in the Aspiring thing? And then relative to when it was first started, how much has that increased?
Yeah, so it really depends on the size of the site. So we have some rural sites that have a graduating class of 12. Then we have some urban sites with 800 seniors. So as you go to a larger school, then the percentage of students from that student body goes down that are actually actively engaged in Aspire. And then at Elkton High School, which is one of our sites, they have nearly 100% of their students involved in the program at all grade levels. So it really depends on the size of the program and the model that they're using. So they're meeting students at all grade levels. Some of our sites, especially the larger ones, really focus on junior and senior year, since that's when students are starting to get their mind wrapped around having to figure out a plan after high school. And so there, it's more like 12%, 15% of the student body. So it really depends on the site size. And then over time, the vast majority of our sites, over time, that increases because they're figuring out what works at their program. They're getting volunteers. They'll get a core volunteer corps, and then they'll add on volunteers over time. And so they become more sustainable over time at the successful sites. We do have some sites that struggle. Kristen mentioned we have turnover for coordinators. At both coordinators and school administrators, we have about 30% of coordinators turning over each year, which means we have to go and train new people coming into a position that they may not want to have. Maybe they do want to be a front desk staff person, but they don't want to also manage this program, but it's just part of their job package has Aspire in it. So depending on who ends up in the role after that turnover, you may have a stronger program or a weaker program. And so we work to help support that staff member, but that person really is key to how strong the program is. And if they're there for multiple years, then they get better at what they're doing, and so that program can strengthen. Good question.
Can I add to that a little
Please.
bit, Gary? So during our region meetings, we bring together our old and new coordinators, and a lot of the time we'll have coordinators who have been in the position for a few years talking about how important it is to serve those younger students. Because if you work with sophomores and juniors, they're a lot easier to mentor and get through that college application process and the financial aid process their senior year than they are if you start fall their senior year. And so it really kind of helps spread the why during these region meetings when they're talking about best practices and sharing their experience over the years, is that the younger they're meeting with their students, even if it's just a few times a year as freshmen and sophomore, a few more times a year as juniors, it's really become a best practice of our program to encourage all of our sites to reach down. And so we kind of do push our coordinators to work with younger students, especially now that we have Aspire Middle Schools feeding into the Aspire High Schools. We don't want them to go 3 years without an Aspire some connection.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Well, thank you for your time and attention, and thanks for being here, and thanks for the organizers.